Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's small business webinars. This is the 8th small business webinar that we've had, and this is our last one for the spring session. I'd just like to remind you that we are recording today's webinar, and I'll be posting that to our small business website that we have here at on the MSU Extension website, and also I'll be distributing it to Jason and also providing it on our listserv. My name is Paul LaChapelle. I'm with MSU Extension, based here at in Bozeman with the Community Development Program, and I'm pleased to be bringing you this webinar series sponsored by the Small Business Development Centers, Montana Department of Commerce, and U.S. Small Business Administration, the Montana Economic Developers Association, with additional support from Great Falls Development Authority. As I mentioned earlier, we do have some poll questions just to your right, and we'd appreciate it if you just take a minute to fill those out, those 4 questions, before we start today's webinar. If you do have any technical support questions or any issues come up, I've given you some contact information there in the welcome chat below. Feel free to pose any questions. You can pose questions directly to me or to any other individuals that are participating on this webinar. So feel free to have either private chats, or you can post any information, or you can call or email me directly if you have any technical questions. So with that, I am going to move us over. Just give us one more, just a few more seconds to enter that information to the right. And I will bring up the presentation screen now. You are welcome to ask questions throughout this webinar. You can see that there's a question box there, and it's just simply a matter of typing your question in and hitting enter. And again, you can ask questions, private questions, or pose the questions that everyone can see as well. Jody will also take questions at the end, general questions, but feel free to ask specific questions as they come up about specific information or slides. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Jody Smith. Jody and I have known each other for, I guess, about 8 years. We met the class of 2010's Leadership Montana program, and it was a pleasure getting to know Jody back then and traveling across the states throughout the, I guess about 16 months of that course. Jody is the Workforce Training Director at Flathead Valley Community College, and Jody's going to be presenting today on the 5 critical customer service skills. So with that, Jody, take it away.
Thank you very much, Paul. It is a pleasure to get to work with you here, and thank you all very much for providing this opportunity for lifelong learning for everybody in such a high-tech fashion as well. And so this is a fun format, and I hope you all feel like it's a power-packed 30 minutes as well. And I do want to emphasize that I appreciate the 2-year colleges having an opportunity to participate, because I want to emphasize that they're a great resource around the state. And one of my key roles is to organize customized training for organizations, businesses, nonprofits, as you all have some specific needs. And so most of the 2-year colleges, especially across the state, can be helping you with those specific needs as well. And so I like the quote there, with customer service not being a department, it is an attitude, because I think one lifelong debate has been, are people naturally inclined to give excellent customer service, or are we truly able to train those skills? And of course, I do think some people are naturally born with a gift for customer service and the kind of care that we want to be providing our customers. But naturally, being in workforce training, I also think there are really key skills that we can train and that then create great customer service. I think some of us, I know I have observed lately with a lot of the young people, if I'm going through McDonald's and getting some French fries, the difference between some that are very natural, but others who've clearly been trained, and we may be able to tell the difference, but they're still providing me very excellent customer service. And so today I'm mostly thinking about speaking to folks who are on the front line, thinking that if you are in a supervisory position, hopefully you'll share this webinar with some of your staff as well. And so go from that perspective. But I also recognize that several of you might be in a supervisory position. And so let's dive in and look at what those 5 skills are that we're going to look at today. I'm going to suggest that we look at first competence, presentation, care, dignity, and tools. And again, this is a foundation for an extremely expansive topic. But what I'd like to have you use this today as is a discussion starter, that you take this back into your organizations and look at these 5 areas and what's working really well and what do you feel like might be able to be improved or enhanced. Even if you're already serving at a great level, do you think, what else can be done? And or for you as supervisors to use this as a bit of a checklist for your own staff within your organizations. And can you step through ensuring that they have each of these skills, or do they need some coaching or some support? In what way? And so to use this as a training outline, and then to think about what are specific scenarios, just because each of you are in such different industries, I believe. I can see all the variety of communities that you're in, and so trusting that there are different organizations represented here today, how can you apply this specifically to what happens with you all day to day, and how do you expect and how do you all want to be responding with your customers as a result? And so hopefully this is really a Kickstarter for some of those discussions. And so let's jump right into competence. I'd like to suggest that the competence attitude is that I want customers to believe we are competent. And competent is pretty straightforward, but we're really talking especially about the ability to do something successful or efficiently. And while there are so many, again, customer service skills that are key, I do think that across the board, no matter what kind of customer that we're working with initially, competence is pretty high in their valuing of if they're going to establish that they've gotten good customer service or not. Was the person competent? Was I able to get what it was that I was looking for when I came into that business? But first, to step into, do you have a strong understanding of the mission and value? Are you clear on what the key purpose of your organization is? We often fall into where we're trying to take care of a lot of different services and products and so forth, but what's the key purpose of that? What's the most important thing about what our business is doing to my work and my role? And what that can do is often help me make a decision when I'm trying to serve a customer. Then I can decide, does this meet the mission of our organization, and how can I help this customer in a way that will fulfill that mission, which ties into my specific or your specific roles and responsibilities. And so how do your specific roles and responsibilities then impact your organization, and how do they differ from other people? And is cross-training important, or is it important that I really own my specific role within an organization because that might be a specialty? And that ties into knowledge. Is it important that you have a really broad knowledge of all the different services and capabilities within our whole region, or is it important that I dive deep, or that you dive deep into understanding a particular product or a particular service because it's important that you do represent a specialty that we have? That knowledge can also tie into, are there people that you should know or other services in the area that are compatible with what you all offer? I like to offer the suggestion that the hospitality industry uses, which is called FAM tours, or familiarization tours. And with FAM tours, we get an opportunity, for instance, if I work at a hotel, I get an opportunity to go out and take a raft trip or go on a guided horseback ride, and so that I am better able to have knowledge about what those other services are. And that can apply to several industries as well, for you to think about how would that make sense, and what kind of knowledge do our staff need, or what do I need in order to be able to do my job even better? And sometimes, often it's not necessary, but it could really raise the bar of that competence that you're able to lend when you're serving your customers. Now, I do think a really key conversation to have within your organizations is, and to what standards is it important that how should I do my work? Is speed really important, or is high quality really important? And most people will say, well, both. But when it comes down to it, what's most important to you all, again, for making some of those decisions? Or should I be working to serve the highest number of people, or is it really more important to get really high quality sales so that we bring in more income? Those kind of conversations that can be important around standards. And what latitude do we have with empowerment to be able to help this customer? How far can I go to offer them or make some deals or ensure that they get what they need with our business? Or when does it make sense that we refer them on? And so how do we assess these? I'd say if you're a frontline person, ask your boss, ask your staff. You can discuss scenarios in a staff meeting so that we kind of see what our competence level is. You might try putting some of these in writing and then see if others in your organization agree or disagree. Again, stimulating those conversations. So let's look at presentation. I consider presentation that initial, when a customer is coming into your organization, it's often right away, what is that first impression? But then it can carry beyond that as well. And so ideally, that attitude is that I want to demonstrate that I know you've arrived, that you need to be served, that you chose our business or our organization to come into, and I appreciate that. And the last bullet we'll see, even when we're serving another customer, is how can we balance that so that I at least find a way to be able to acknowledge that person when they're coming in, even if I have other things going on. And so, but we're ensuring that it's immediate recognition, eye contact with a smile, some open body language showing that I am glad that they're here, raising of a hand, an upbeat greeting, possibly showing some of your personality. Because I think sometimes we run into, or some of us observe, some of the mistakes that are made within organizations is people might stay on their own personal phone calls or talking with a coworker, and immediately that customer starts to feel devalued. Or not asking that person if I might be able to do something to help them, or giving them a dull reaction, or ignoring them when I am only with one customer. It starts to send unintentional, possibly, but messages to our customers. And so to be aware of that, and how can we even quickly ensure that we've expressed that appreciative message right away. A few things that we do here in our office, which is in continuing education at the college, is we do have a lot of information readily available when customers come in, so that if we are with somebody else, they have something else that they can look at. We do have a sign with a bell on the counter, and there's also a bell if we close our door to our office that it will ring so we know somebody has arrived. And or if the front office person is busy with a customer and wants one of us to come up and help her, she has a bell that she can ring. And so it's also trying to find a way, I think, that we can also get other work done, do the work of our business or our organization, and balance it between making sure, though, that we are fully honoring those customers when they do come into the organization. So that takes us to care, and looking at how does care tie in with customer service. And some may think of this as a soft skill, but it's important because this is really often exactly why a customer will make a decision about us. Do we care that they chose our business or our organization to do business with? Often, even if we are the only choice, it can direct and shape our whole relationship with that customer. And so I want my attitude to be that we understand that that customer's needs are unique and that we don't assume to know what they need. So that just because the first person was in here wanted a certain product or a certain service, we know that that may not be the case with the next person coming in. And so we want to be really demonstrated that we understand that they may have specific needs. And being authentic and personal, I think, can really tie in with care, as opposed to them feeling as though we're just providing the same information and service to everybody across the board. A key part of that, I think, is asking and inquiring, what are you looking for? How may I help you? What are you hoping to achieve? What are your goals? What is it that you're looking for, and why, and how, and what does that look like? And those kinds of things, and actively listening with our eye contact and our nodding so that we're truly hearing what it is that they need. And again, we'll talk about in a little bit, this doesn't have to take a lot of time. We can be efficient as long as we're incorporating this as part of how we're caring about our customers. And then clarifying what you heard. And kind of echoing back to them. So what I hear is that you're looking for something that will last a long time and be high quality. You still don't want to spend a whole lot of money, but how can I help you find that? Does that sound right? That gives them a chance to elaborate, say a little bit more, maybe even correct you as well. And sometimes correct themselves where they think, oh no, now that I hear that out loud, that's not what I was trying to say or not what I want. Some of the mistakes that we see are acting impatient with questions because, well, I've heard that 20 times before, right? And so how do we work on treating every question as though it was the first time we heard it? Often we tease here near Glacier Park, of course, that when did the bears come out at what time? And so, you have those in your own organization, in your own business, and so you all can have that conversation internally, and how can you put it on then that it's a fresh question. And another big mistake is that when we're serving our customers, it's easy to do all the talking. And so I challenge you to really think about what are some meaningful questions that you can be ready to ask your customers in a way to demonstrate that you care about what they're looking for. And that leads us to just a couple other points with really paying attention. And that I mean by watching how are they responding to what you're offering. Does it seem to be making sense to them? Or is it that we need to possibly change the way that we're communicating? We have our own natural styles, but if I'm a little bit a little bit slower in my style and really trying to relate, and I see that person getting antsy, I may want to pick it up and change my pace and try to be a little bit more efficient, right? And so working to adapt our style as well. And I like that quote over on the right-hand side that isn't it really customer helping rather than customer service? And so that if we have that in our head of what does this particular customer need from us or want from us, and do we have that? And I do think when we talk about authenticity, that's an important part. Are we really the right organization or business or service to truly help this person? Because if we're not, we only do a disservice to them by continuing to try to sell them what we have. And so we'll build a stronger, longer relationship with that customer if we send them to the right place, right? And then hopefully later when when we have what they need, they'll be back and they'll refer us to other people as well. And so I suggest that then this loops us back at the end of carrying back into asking and inquiring again after we're having these conversations. Does that meet your expectations? Is this what you were looking for? Does this seem to match what it is that you need right now? And that can all demonstrate the way that we can care for our customers and employees with a very hard skill set of navigating that conversation as well. So let's look at dignity next. And with dignity, I propose that is when somebody being worthy of honor or respect. And so we might run into just once in a while with our customers a difference in style, a difference in opinion, conflict arises with our customers. And in my mind, in those situations is especially when we need to have dignity as a top value within how we are serving that person. And so it's how can we make that customer feel that they were right no matter what to come into our business, into our organization, to be asking us if we can meet their needs. There are no foolish questions. We're not being defensive about their criticisms that they may have. And as I mentioned, we might direct them elsewhere if we're not the right solution. And so I like that attitude of regardless of their perspective or their behavior, they always deserve to be treated with dignity. And so then I challenge us to be the ones to be remaining professional, taking the high road, and assuming positive intent. It's easy to get frustrated with our customers perhaps and think, if they're surly or their whole presence is challenging, but to assume positive intent that we don't know what's been going on with them and to then affirm their frustration or challenge. And we don't have to say that we were wrong or anything that we've done should have been done differently, but we can start with saying, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. I can see why you might be frustrated, and acknowledge that, and often that can lower their defense, give them some dignity for how they're feeling, and then be able to move into a more productive conversation. with us remaining calm. I do again challenge you to adapt. If they're a fast-paced speaker moving quickly and you try to be really calm and slow, that may not help you navigate the conversation really well. And so again, try to be paying attention and looking at your customer and observing what will work well for them. And that brings us to a couple more points with dignity. To carefully choose your wording. That one of the first quotes at the beginning of the session, was really emphasizing more about our behavior, and that wording isn't always important, but it is important too, right? To choose our wording. How does that represent dignity? How does that support the customer? And then more than anything, which ties back to competence, is step into resolving their issue and own it until it is resolved, so that they know they've placed this challenge with you. You will find a solution, or you will be able to explain why you're not able to help them, and maybe provide some suggestions of what they can do, which often then helps them still feel served, even if they weren't able to get exactly what they were looking for when they came into your business. Often I like to suggest that you ask them, especially if you don't know how to help or how to resolve it, ask them, what would you like to see me do? What would you expect that I would do for you? How can I help you feel satisfied? And often then that can lead to a great solution that you might not have even been thinking of, or even more simple than what you had been thinking you were going to need to do. And then to ask them if there's anything else that you can do, and thank them. As some of the quotes are referring to, often they are our greatest ally in letting us know if there's a challenge with our business, our service, our product, that it's important that we know what that is and get that feedback and get that information. And often our customers can become even more loyal if we help them resolve these challenging situations in a really productive way. And so that's where it can really be a gift, as tough as it is to feel like at the time. And so let's pop into the final skill, critical skill of customer service. And I would suggest, especially for you as supervisors, but for you, if you're a frontline person, to think about these as well, is those tools, which again tie back into competence. But with the attitude being, we value preparing our systems and our tools to be ready to provide customers the service that they expect. And so this is, what are we doing kind of on the outside of the time in which we're actually with our customers? But how are you embedding customer service priorities into your culture? What do you and your staff need to be able to serve at a high standard? What obstacles need to be fixed or removed? And if you're a supervisor, asking your staff, what would you like to see in place to be able to serve our customers even better? Or I've observed that you're not providing our customers with these options. Why is that? And often your staff will have very revealing information that could be so helpful, and you probably can remove some of those obstacles. Or you decide it's important that we can't do that, and so our staff trained to be able to explain that, and in a caring and understanding, sometimes firm, but clear way, so that it can make sense to our customers. And what are the boundaries and options for dealing with disgruntled customers? Again, that ties back into, are they empowered to give them some additional options? And is there a chain of command that you really prefer that they use? But so that people can understand these scenarios that may arise within your organizations, and how should they be handling it in a way that meets the standards that you expect. So that leads us to just one final tip around tools, and that is to look at how are you prepared, this is what I just spoke to, prepared to share reasons for policies and procedures. And then how do you assess your customer service or solicit feedback from your customers? Because often we don't know. We're making assumptions. And so it's really important for you all to talk about how are we figuring out how we're doing. And then we can serve, assess, and evaluate, implement, and repeat, and hopefully get great feedback, great information, and feel like we're serving with our eyes wide open. And so I hope that you see a lot of value in those 5 critical customer service skills that, again, are a small snippet, but hopefully can stimulate some excellent conversations within your organization. And If you're really motivated, I did want to offer you just a few additional resources that I have looked into over the years as well, that I think you would find some very rich material to help you continue those conversations and raising the bar within your organization. So thank you very much, and I would open up for any questions and or tips and suggestions that you feel like have worked really well for your organization.
Great, thank you, Jody. We've got a few minutes for questions. I'm posting Jody's contact information there too, and Jody's invited you to contact her through email or phone. You can see the address there, and you've also got a website. So again, we've got a few minutes for questions. Feel free to type them into the question box there, and we'll give folks a minute or two to kind of think about that and get their questions typed in. Jody, maybe I'll just start with one about kind of different generational segments, and there's different different ways that people process information. Millennials are different than Gen Xers, that are different than baby boomers. Any suggestions about how to deal with maybe those different groups? Not generalizing too much, but they do have different different ways of kind of seeing the world. So any thoughts on from both an employee and a customer point of view dealing with those different generational groups?
I would say there are so many resources out there, so do some reading and some quick exploration about some of the, as you say, Paul, some generalizations about each of those generations, because there are reasons that several of the people within those generations, their characteristics are different. To start off with a baseline of understanding how they might be, and then I think to, again, be cautious about your assumptions. And so it's a good way to start relating with your customers and your staff with what you've read about, what you understand that millennials like higher tech, faster responsiveness. They really want to know what their value is, as opposed to some of the other characteristics. But then also, and if it is within your organization, talk about those. I think it's a great staff meeting topic, and let's talk about what I've read about, and these are some of the generalizations. Do you all agree? Do those work for you? And some of them work for me and some don't. And how can we then think about that with our customers too? So I think that's an excellent topic too. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks, Jody. Jason's just posted a question. How frequently would you recommend business owners and managers put their employees through training like this?
Every week. Being at the community college, that's a good question. What comes to my mind is thinking even twice a year, so that and that it's kind of a layered approach. Is that as your supervisors are always giving feedback, coaching. Recognizing excellent performance as one level of training, and then what are you doing in your staff meetings? What are those small topics of conversations, those scenarios that we're talking through, talking about what's our values and our standards that we have, and then perhaps in my mind thinking about what's a different aspect of customer service that we haven't talked about before, like generations or technology, and understanding our tools and our resources, and maybe even mapping out. This comes from Jerry May Rowley, who I believe is on with us, but she found, Shep Hyken is referred to in a lot of these quotes, and he talks about the moments of magic, but it says moments of truth are when are those most important times that we interact with our customers, and how can we improve each of those, and that might help drive different topics for you to talk about and train on with your customer service training as well. So a few different ideas there that I offer.
Great. Thanks, Jody. If any of you have additional questions, feel free to post them. I'll just remind you, we do ask that you fill out a final evaluation. We've got a link. Just takes a minute to fill that out. And I've posted that SurveyMonkey link in the chat box, as well as our MSU Extension Small Business webpage. Jason's just posted a note to our attendees. Please complete the survey. Help us continue to offer trainings like this and keep them free. And we're also very happy to take suggestions for webinar topics and presenters for the fall. So please let us know if you have any ideas there. Additional questions for Jody? Anyone, feel free to type them in.
We appreciate you attending and investing your time today, too. Thank you.
Indeed. Yep. Was just going to say that.
Sorry.
I don't see any additional questions coming up. Jody, great job. Great information. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to our participants, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll be in touch with details on the fall webinar series. And until then, have a great summer. And we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks all.